60 Minutes Rewind.
Chances are your car is sat in your garage or driveway this weekend, and chances are that your local gas station is going to be closed a lot more Sundays this winter. What part does the Arab oil embargo play in all of this? One Middle East monarch thinks that you're being sold a bill of goods. To try to understand something of the background of the oil shortage, a 60 Minutes crew has spent the last 3 weeks in the Middle East, in Saudi Arabia and Iran, the two largest oil exporting countries in the world. Our story on Saudi Arabia is still in work, but in Iran, earlier this week, we went to see the man who runs that country and, in effect, its oil industry. Shah Mohammed Rizza Pahlavi is not an Arab. He makes a point of calling himself Aryan. And unlike the Arabs, he will sell oil to anyone if the price is right. Along with the Arabs, he is a member of OPEC, the Organization of Petroleum Exporting Countries. That's the group that is holding the world's feet to the fire with the rocketing price of oil. This week in Tehran, the Shah offered to put up $1 billion, and he can afford it, of his oil money, for a fund that would cushion the devastating economic effect of the oil crunch on the have-not nations. And he took time out in his Niavaran palace to talk to us. Sheikh Yamani told me a week ago in Riyadh that he was very optimistic that during February there was going to come the disengagement between Syria and Israel and the oil embargo would be lifted. He was optimistic. That optimism obviously has turned sour. Why? Do you know?
Well, there might be many reasons. One is that I don't know why you attach so much importance to this embargo on the United States, really. Why should you care about that? You are not short of oil.
Have you seen the lines of cars stretching for blocks, in some cases for miles, waiting to get gas?
I have seen the pictures.
And you cannot
But you have imported more oil than any time in the past.
Well, not recently, we haven't.
You have?
You mean we are still importing more oil than we were, let's say, in September? You believe that?
I can't say for sure. But what is certain is that you are not importing less.
Than we were importing last September? Then this whole thing is a fraud?
You know that ships are changing their destinations 2 or 3 times in the oceans. You sell the oil for a certain destination and it ends up somewhere else.
What you seem to be saying is that there is some fraud involved, that there is something going on that doesn't meet the eye.
Oh, something is going on for sure.
And who is being enriched by it?
The oil companies.
The oil companies.
You know that one oil company has made 67% interest this year and another one even more?
Well, the president of Aramco acknowledges.
Yes?
Not the president, the chairman of the board of Aramco acknowledged to us that their profits, the parent company, will go up by 400%
yes.
next year, just as Iran's profits will go up by 400%.
Yes, but this is our wealth, our natural wealth. For them, it's only a question of manipulation.
As you know, I have been across the Gulf that you call Persian and they call Arabian.
Why do you call it Gulf? You have been to school, haven't you?
Yes.
What was the name that you have read during your school days?
Persian Gulf.
All right.
But they do call it Arabian Gulf.
Well, they can do many things.
And they find an irony in the oil situation in this. They say, we impose the embargo against the United States, for instance, and the European countries. That drives the cost of oil up. Who benefits from the embargo? Iran, the Shah. Shah, who is the friend of Israel, benefits from the high price of oil caused by our embargo.
Yeah, but only enemies of Iran could have told you that. First of all, why friend of Israel?
Why?
In what sense?
Oh, economic cooperation.
How much?
I don't know the extent of it.
It doesn't come even to $2 or $3 million a year.
Intelligence cooperation.
That's You can get that kind of intelligence even in reading American newspapers.
It is common knowledge that they trained or helped to train your secret police, the Savak. You do have a relationship with the Israelis, there's no doubt.
Yes, that's ridiculous, but we have the same relationship with all the friendly Arab countries that we train also in this country. This means nothing.
The industrial nations, among them, of course, the United States, feel that you, sir, have pushed too far, too fast, and that you can trigger worldwide depression by doing it. Henry Kissinger says so. Sheikh Yamani, the oil minister of Saudi Arabia, says so.
That suits him. I'm not talking about Yamani because I don't like to enter into that subject. But the others, it suits them to say that. Why? Because the price that we have set for oil was one of the lowest among the prices which were studied and suggested to the OPEC organization by all the experts.
You say you don't want to talk about Saudi Arabia and Sheikh Yamani. Well, nonetheless, Saudi Arabia, #1 oil producer, has certainly as great a stake as you do. And yet he says, it's going to trigger depression, it's going to trigger trouble.
He has been told to say that. I'm sorry to say this.
By?
I'm not going to mention any names.
Well, by President Nixon?
I'm not going to mention any names. Ask the other member of the OPEC, all those experts in the OPEC, what they think.
But what kind of pressure can somebody put upon Sheikh Yamani to say it, unless his own king says say it?
You just go and ask those people.
Is it going to go down? Is it going to go up? Is it going to stay the same? The cost of oil...
It's going to go certainly up because, unfortunately, your inflation is going to go up.
Is it going to go up on April 1st when...
This I can't say.
Well, you sit down with your OPEC brothers in the next few weeks, and you make a decision about the price of oil as of April 1st. Can you give us a horseback guess, Your Majesty?
I can't tell you, really. But all will depend on many factors. One is the attitude that the so-called industrial countries of the world are adopting. Is it a hostile attitude or a cooperative attitude?
You tell me, sir.
Second, it's the question of your inflation. The bill that they are every day presenting us is something ridiculous. The way that you are increasing your prices.
On?
Everything. Every kind of commodity.
For instance?
Say some spare parts for a radar station. That's only one little example. And from that you can go for everything.
Is it in retaliation for the rise of...
No, it's because they cannot control their economy.
But you can.
We can, and that's what we call your society a permissive society.
Is that that's not the only reason you call our society a permissive society?
Not the only reason.
Your Majesty.
Not the only reason.
Well, this is not a pretty subject to bring up to His Imperial Majesty, but there are those from the West who say, look at the corruption in Iran. With all of the money in your own affluent economy, in your own swollen economy, so much money sticks to the hands of people in the government. They say you can't get a contract here, and everybody's here. You know that, vendors, contractors, without a little of true?
I think it's the most unjust thing that is said. It's just jealousy. For instance, the military purchases, it's government to government. If there is a corruption, it's from your government or the government of every other country from which we buy. So this is the unfairest and most unjust thing that I have heard.
Is it possible, Your Majesty, that because you are so busy and because you have so many things occupying you that it could be going on behind your back, sir?
No. It's impossible because I have at least 5 inspectorate organizations. One, sooner or later, they will be caught. And let me say this. First of all, I think this is a cheap accusation. Second, it is less than anything that you have in your so-called permissive society.
You mean you think there is more corruption in the United States than in...
Well, especially in your country, yes.
The story will continue after this.
You are one of the longest ruling monarchs in the world today, Your Majesty. 33 years, you've survived assassination attempts, internal strife, external threats. Why?
Why did I survive?
Yes.
Well, I believe in God. Ask him.
You do?
I do.
I mean, very
seriously.
deeply.
Oh, yes. And I think this is the only explanation.
You have said the only explanation. You said, I will stay alive until I finish what I set out to do.
What was set for me to do.
By God.
That's what I believe.
When you were a little boy, you saw visions, you saw apparitions. God came to you, or God's messenger came to you.
Yes.
For some of us in the West, that is difficult to comprehend. But I say you believe it. You say it.
I do.
What happened?
Started by dreams, then apparitions and feelings, but all in 1 year, not more, between the age of 6 and 7. And then it stopped.
You have no more dreams, apparitions, visions now?
Sometimes I have dreams which come true when I don't like it.
Assassination attempts?
No, not that.
But you had premonition, you had...
Not that. When I was a kid, once I dreamt that there was a pit full of snakes, and obviously people who are always translating the dreams told me that these are your enemies. Things like that. It happens to everybody, probably. But not that.
You sleep more soundly now?
With my sleeping pills, yes.
You take sleeping pills?
Since some time now. Well, it's really tranquilizers.
You know, very few leaders like yourself, Your Majesty, talk with the candor with which you have talked on television. Why? Why are you willing to?
First of all, I believe in what I say. Secondly, I'm not afraid of my people. It's not a political campaign. I'm not going to look at the polls tomorrow to see if I'm 2 degrees higher or lower. And that's because this confidence exists between me and my people. They trust in me, I trust in them. I believe that I know the job. So I'm not trembling in thinking or saying what I say, because I know that tomorrow I won't have to go to the polls.